We're gonna start, oh, ready?
I think we're live.
Right.
I pushed the button.
Brian, we got a thumbs up? All right, thank you. So we'll start the committee portion of our meeting with the curriculum and instruction spotlight. We got the Sippin' Saints.
Okay, so I'm Mindy Zadroik. I'm the family consumer science teacher. So this year we opened up Sippin' Saints. So I just went through and made kind of a highlight of what we do. So Sippin' Saints was originated in my hospitality and tourism class. That was at the beginning of the year, so first quarter. They came up with the recipe development, the menu design. They came up with all of the recipes. So all of the stuff that they serve is homemade. They make all of their syrups, just kind of everything. So they're only open before school. And unfortunately, I only teach hospitality for 9 weeks. So I only had them the first quarter. From there, it kind of transitioned into the junior class. So this runs as their fundraiser as well. Then it kind of comes back to me again. I have 3 seniors right now that run a retail management course. So they kind of are my managers of it right now. So they have transitioned into the recipe development, menu development, the marketing, all of the things that go into it. And then fourth quarter, I'll have an industry cooking class that will play a part in it as well. So right now, they're doing pretty well. Money-wise, they have paid off a portion of their DJ already. But it does pretty well. It's still relatively new, so students, every day I think I hear a student say, oh, I didn't know that existed. So it's just kind of a learning curve right now and trying to get kids in. So my retail management kids run it in the morning, but then the juniors also run it in the morning. So I usually have at least 1 retail senior, and then I have usually at least 2 juniors in there as well. All of our funds go directly back to the junior class. And then our future is just kind of, we're hoping to expand. So currently the space we're in is the Saints shop. And there's not a lot of power in there. So we're working with what we got right now, which is not a lot. So we're hoping, looking at next year, to expand. I've already had some equipment that I have on the back burner, if you will, and then some other inviting furniture for those of you that haven't been in there. We have, a coffee table in there and some chairs. And I hear a lot in the morning how kids really enjoy just the welcoming environment. It's pretty cozy, literally. It's very warm in there every single morning, which right now is really great because it's cold out. So kids like to just come in and hang out. They get a lot of hands-on experience, especially in customer service. Training kids to get feedback and handle it well is a learning curve. So it's great for them. But yeah, that's Sippin' Saints. You guys have questions?
Where is it at?
So it's located off the Commons in where the Saints shop used to be, so the school store. Yep. Yeah, so we kind of took on most of that space. There is still merchandise in there, and that's one more thing looking at next year. We're trying to look at something a little more focused towards what our students are wanting in there. Right now, it's not really geared super well for them. So I've already started to talk with Mrs. Rose about how we can get some other merchandise in there for our students.
What do you have? Just coffee at this point? Or?
Yeah, so we have quite a wide variety of coffee. But we also have refreshers in there as well. So there's like a strawberry lemonade. There's one that's an ocean breeze. So it's kind of like a blue raspberry lemonade with coconut water. And then they make snacks. So they have energy bites in there, which is a huge hit. And then, yeah, just kind of small breakfasty items. The hard part is we're only open before school because we don't compete with our lunchroom. So it's hard to get kids in there early in the morning and get them out before first block. So getting kids to school early to order and get out the door on time is a struggle as well. But with the number of students we have, it usually goes pretty well. It's not very often I'm writing late passes, so.
So I can see on the brochure that it came out of, I can see on the brochure that it came out of a course, but what's like the origin story of how this got started? Was there like every kid did a project and then the
No,
business
so
plan project got voted on to open this? Or?
it was me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was something that I wanted to bring into my curriculum.
Sure,
There's
sure,
a lot of
okay.
schools in the United States that run it.
Oh, okay.
It's not always run out of hospitality, so it's not always run out of family and consumer science, but a lot of places it is too. So it was something I wanted for my curriculum because my industry cooking class is based off of hospitality and cooking in that industry. So that was ideally what I wanted, but industry cooking is a relatively new course for our school as well. So right now I only have one 9-week offering of it. So maybe eventually we'll get there, but this was a slow start that I brought to last year. And my hospitality kids really liked it. So the kids you see on the front, those are the majority of my hospitality kids. Yeah. They were the first go round of it. Yeah.
A very cool creative concept.
Yeah.
Very amazing. And it's only for staff and faculty
and students.
And
yep.
students.
Yep. And
not to the public.
No, not right now. There was things that we would have to do with like Polk County Health Department and things like that. And again, it's just right now the space that we have is not super available to be open all the time. We did do one wrestling match, but the wrestling tournament, the high school wrestling tournament. And that went well, but it was a smaller offering as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Taya Spartall. I am a high school special education teacher here in St. Croix Falls School District, and I'm going to do just a little segue and talk about working on job experiences, career exploration, and opportunities for students in the special ed department or that have IEPs. So one of the things right now that we currently have set up for our students, it's a pilot program that we've partnered with DVR through the Department of Workforce Development. So DVR is the program that students and families can apply for if they need additional support for their children after they graduate from high school. And so we will be having, starting this Thursday, we have Workforce Resource coming into the building. They're working with 4 students that we pre-selected, 2 juniors and 2 seniors that needed some more support on deciding and looking at some options for what they're going to do after high school. And so there'll be 4 to 6 class sessions for them to do some exploration in manufacturing, construction, IT, customer service, hospitality. They get to, once they go through those classes, they get an opportunity to do some job tours, hands-on experiences in their career interest areas. And then there is actually a third part that I do not have listed on there, and that's another program attached to this that goes into the summer where the students can have an opportunity to do a short internship in one of the areas that they were interested in, and it would be a paid internship for them. So it's short. I believe they said 4 weeks when we originally spoke with DVR through their a virtual meeting that we had, but that's another great opportunity that will hopefully get some of these kids involved in. So again, this is just the first year they're doing it, and they're hoping to expand it, and that they would return each year, then we'd have more students involved in the opportunity. And then just highlighting some future plans, things that are in process are looking at additional transition classes and continuing to partner with DVR, also with Northwoods Technical College. They have a hospitality program that we have a student tentatively scheduled to attend starting in the fall. Planning community engagement and resource nights where we bring in community resources that would, like DVR, different, the ADRC, that would, then we'd bring in the families and the students in the community, and from the surrounding community, they'd have an opportunity to talk to the different resources for opportunities or things that they might need support with for their children after they graduate or as they're looking for post-high school plans. And then also just more, adding in some more real-life work experience here within the building through small programs that we'll be doing, and then job shadowing.
Do you have to go out and help find the employers that are gonna help with the internships, or do they do that?
The program, the Career Exploration Program through DVR is doing that search. And barring all of that, transportation would be provided between DVR and the school district to get the students to the locations.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, we'll move on to curriculum and policy and discuss policy 345.6. The graduation requirements is in our packet.
Yeah, so you can see that this is as a direct result of the inclusion of the financial literacy requirement class that was approved last month, and then some corresponding changes. So the primary reason the policy was pulled for this update for that financial literacy class, but then noticed a few other things, minor things that we wanted to make adjustments on. So Mr. Wilson and Mr. Cray developed the recommended changes here. You see those on those attached sheet highlighted in orange, I think the color is. So nothing that's a huge deal, but it is just reflective of that financial literacy course that was just approved in the graduation requirement.
And removing the computer.
Removing computer, yes, yep.
Any questions regarding the changes? Hearing none, we'll move on to the changes to the handbook for 25-26, which includes the sub-costs, personal days.
Yeah, so this came about as a conversation that I had, with staff with respect to potential wage increases or modifications that they might like to see. And I'll emphasize, it's not as though the staff make a request and then we just go ahead and do it, but it is, relevant to consider and to determine whether or not there's modifications we can make that make employment more advantageous or things a little less stressful for staff members. One of the things that was brought up was specifically personal business days. So when staff members use personal business days, they are charged the full cost of a sub. And as you're aware, that cost of a sub has been increasing with regular frequency due to sub shortage and other districts increasing their rates, including us. And so that eats further and further into their ability to, make ends meet, as it were. And so one of the things they asked about was the possibility of a modification in that regard. And I fairly confident I alluded to this when we talked a few months ago with respect to that wage adjustment, but this is finally now coming forward. And all it would be, and the reason we don't have a copy of the handbook in there in the modification is because it's pretty simple. As it stands right now, it says that the staff member will incur the cost of a sub, and the recommendation was we simply incorporate the word half. The staff member will incur 1/2 the cost of the sub. So rather than charging them the full sub amount, it'd be half of that. And then, of course, that would relieve a bit of that constraint. It also then would be tied naturally to, whatever increases happen. There's going to be some incremental increases, but of course, half of whatever that sub rate would be.
So basically, we'll just add the word half.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh,
Comments?
and that'd be implemented next year for the 25-26 school year. We're not going to change it midstream.
Okay. Right.
I have a question. So, the personal days, is it on? Yeah, the personal days, so this would be beyond, like, someone's accrued sick time?
Yeah.
This is, okay. Are there
Yeah,
a lot
staff-
of personal days that are taken throughout the year by?
It depends. So there's two types of personal days. There's a personal day where you're not charged the cost of a sub, but then there's personal business days, or business personal days, I think is what we call them in the handbook, which the orientation of that, I mean, it's a personal day nonetheless. The reason it's different is because, of course, it was tied to the sub cost, number one, and then the thought process for its inclusion prior would be like, you know, I have an appointment that's coming up that's not really medical. I mean, I don't know, I have to see my accountant, or my car broke down, you know, who knows? And so it's an opportunity to utilize a day, you know, which is really tough to do for school staff, as you're keenly aware, you know, being gone during school. So this is only those. And sick days, regular personal days, there's no changes in that regard because there isn't technically costs incurred by the staff member to do it.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to financial and discuss summer school wages.
This is something that I wanted to bring forward too. So you're excuse me, I'm choking myself. You're probably aware that the majority of our summer school offerings are taught by staff members that receive basically 80% of their salary in an hourly rate, and for the summer school hours. So in most cases, that's like 8 to noon, 4 hours a day. As a result, there isn't really, the summer school rate for elementary classes, remediation courses at the middle school, and remediation courses at the high school, or credit courses, credit recovery courses at the high school, are paid at that rate. We also have, which means it depends on how long you've been in the business. So if you've been here a long time, you're gonna be making a little bit more per hour than if you're a brand new teacher. And frankly, based on my review of summer school wages from other districts that I've been involved in, and having pulled those numbers multiple times during my career, we pay pretty well for summer school when it's based on your hourly rate. You know what I'm saying? So that is not really the concern, and that's tied to what somebody's hourly rate is. So it's not like we have to keep bringing it back to the board to say, hey, we have to increase summer school wages, because they're already tied to wages, and if those wages increase, then de facto summer school rates increase. So that's nice. But one portion that I wanted to bring to your attention was there's courses at the middle school in particular that are like fishing and archery and I'm trying to think of what the other ones are, but there's a handful. I'd say, what is it, guys, 5 or 6 of them maybe, of those sorts of courses? There can be more than that, yeah. Yeah. And that's been tied to a flat $25 per hour rate for staff members. And because you're doing that class, and the thought process justifiably is that that's more of a fun-oriented class. You're probably not spending a ton of prep time, although if you're gonna take a group of middle school kids fishing, you don't just show up. You know, there's gonna be some things you need to do. It's more interest-oriented, and it's a summer enhancement, you know, rather than strict academics, as it is in some of the credit recovery and remediation courses and what's going on at the elementary. So the rate, from what I'm told, hasn't changed a ton and over the last several years, if at all, and it's not necessarily tied to anything specific. So the proposal that I wanted to bring forward, which if you would like to see that happen, would happen probably later this month, and that would be to tie it to the same formula that elementary and high school courses and the remediation courses are using, but go to the base wage, so a starting bachelor's degree teacher. What that would do immediately is if implemented, would move that number from $25 an hour to $29 an hour, $29.14, something like that. And it would also then be fixed over time, so as that base wage for a bachelor's degree new teacher increases over time, de facto the summer school rate would increase over time as well. And having had, you know, taught summer school in the past, like I was talking about it with Lorraine, I'm pretty confident that when I had in summer school in the early 2000s, I was getting $25 an hour. I'm pretty sure. Now, I think it was, but, so it's been a while. I don't think it's anything that's earth-shattering, but on the same hand, it, I think, pays deference to the fact that we do need to do something in that regard, and then it ties to a base wage that will modify over time, and then, you know, frankly, bringing it forward would only be if we want to see a modification that's much more specific. Secondarily, we're not ready yet, but another thing I'd like to consider is a modification for our student workers, because right now they're getting $10 an hour. And the proposal I'd like to see is bring that forward to, say, 13, something like that, because as you well know, going to Quick Trip or Menards or McDonald's or whatever you're talking, I mean, 13 is still a little bit low, but what we need to do over time is boost some of our other wages for support staff positions, because we have some support staff members that are getting $15 an hour and $15.74 or something like that. And I don't know that we really want to, at this juncture, pay high school kids $15 an hour if an adult, instructional aide that we're hiring is getting 70 cents more than that to start. So there's some work we need to do in that regard, which we'll move those things forward over time and make those modifications. But the request then, if you're agreeable to it, would be twofold. One would be modifying the summer school quote-unquote fun courses at the middle school to be tied to base wage, same formula, and it's 80% basically of the base wage for a bachelor's degree, and then an increase to summer school student assistance from $10 to $13. But
That's not what you're proposing basically today. We're just wondering if we should bring it forward.
correct. Yep. And so if you agree, we can bring it forward and take action on it at the next meeting or next month or whatever works.
Not that this really matters, but do we have summer school teachers that aren't teachers? Like somebody doing hunter safety or, that type of stuff, snowmobile safety? They do need to be certified.
In order for us to count summer school hours, they need to be certified, yeah. But I will say, because of the pay structure and whatnot, we have some people jumping over to do elementary and some people, you know what I'm saying, selecting the courses that pay them a bit more to do the summer school versus the quote-unquote fun courses. And one of the things I'd like to see over time too is some modifications and updates to summer school offerings, so see if we can't get more kids involved, develop some new things and put it out there. Because frankly, this stuff that's going on, at least in the middle school, is the same stuff that was going on 25 years ago. And so I think it's time. I mean, and I got nothing against taking kids fishing. I think it's awesome. I'm not saying don't do the stuff that kids like, but I'm saying let's look at it and see if there's other things we can develop that might get more kids involved, and that's true for any level, elementary and high school as well. So kind of to set the stage, but having it tied to something makes sense in the long term, so that it's not something we have to continuously or every year, every 2 years bring back to you.
Questions?
I think it sounds good.
Back.
Will do.
Maybe we should have had the next item first. The budget.
Well, if you click on the very brief December 25 budget report, as is noted in the title, that it would have been accurate as of near the end of December. The reason that it's produced at that time frame is because that is roughly 50% of our way through the fiscal year. So if you look at the 24-25 number all the way on the right-hand side column, the fiscal year-to-date percentage is listed there for you. And generally what you'd want to see is numbers that are 50% or below. And I think upon quick review, you can see that in a general sense, that's where we stand. Now, with that being said, this is not, because it's the rolled down sort of broad overview of the budget, this is not bringing you to the nuance of, oh, we're over budget in this account by 52 cents and we're under budget in this account by $1,000.32. It's not giving it to you in that granular detail. But similarly, when we close out the books during the school year, this is generally what happens as you roll down each of the accounts and produce a report to say, here's where we stand, Fund 10, here's where we stand, Fund 27, Fund 50, Fund 80, and so forth. And so this is not atypical to see. It's about as simple of a report as you can get in terms of broad overview. Upon review, there's nothing on here that I'm looking at and thinking, oh my God, what's going on? Because ultimately, you'll notice, like, for example, other support under, I gotta move mine over, under the 10E 100s total instruction, kind of middle of the page, Down in the bottom of that says other support, and that's at 81.75%. Now, is that a problem? The answer to that question is likely not, because also what transpires is some things are encumbered on the front end, and then you don't pay, or you make another payment, but it's a small payment. Insurance operates in that capacity. Certain wage adjustments can operate in that capacity. If you do, a catch-up payment or a back pay to people, then you're gonna see a larger increase over time, and then that planes out when bills are due. So sometimes you can encumber 100% of a budgeted item by September 1st. And is that a problem? Well, no, because if you look further into that granular item, you'll see, well, that was because we're gonna pay for this, this, and this, and the bills are due on September 1st. So generally, if you looked at this and all of your numbers are over 50% or wildly high or wildly low, that might be some cause for concern. But in this case, it's not. This is also only Fund 10, not Fund 27, or the other funds. The reason being is that, as you probably recognize, we make Fund 10 or Fund 27 whole by making a Fund 10 transfer. And so putting out a Fund 27 mid-year report is an estimate at best in terms of what that Fund 10 transfer is going to be, because we're only halfway into the school year. So
the two items in red, I mean, it's not a huge dollar amount, but they're just red because we've had to pay them all, or we didn't have money in that bucket?
So that's an encumbered amount that is probably mid-process of being encumbered, but not totally expended. You see what I'm saying? Because as you can tell by the unexpended balance, it's not as a result of having fewer funds in there. So I'm guessing, is that accurate, Lorraine? That's how it's tracked within Skyward, pardon me? When it's amount that's been encumbered that's hanging out there, it'll typically display like that.
Any other questions? Looks good. We'll move on to buildings and grounds. Talk about the replacement of middle school HVAC pumps. We had two proposals in our packet to review.
Right. So not this week on the very cold days, but the week that we went to, so that would be the week of, like, I think January 17th, something like that. When we had those super cool cold days, what happened, which is status quo, is that we had problems with our HVAC system in both the high school and the middle school. But because of our custodial and maintenance people, the impact here in the building was basically non-existent. It was a little chilly for a bit, but they got it rectified and piecemealed together such that, as you can tell, it's not freezing in here right now. Things are generally okay, but we've identified is that the HVAC pumps at the middle school that feed the middle school need to be replaced. And so therefore, Brian Warner got a couple of bids, one from Ahern and one from Comfort Systems. The recommendation is to go with the Comfort Systems bid because it's the low bid and it's a local contractor at $17,766. The question that's always asked is this something that we budgeted for? And the answer to that question is no. We didn't know that the middle school HVAC pumps would fail. However, we also have, so in a general sense, I shouldn't say no. Is it something we planned on? No. But is there dollars available in the budget to cover that without creating an issue? The answer to that's yes, because there's always going to be a little bit of a carve-out for things of this nature. 17 grand's not cheap, but it's also not 170 grand. So completely, I think, surmountable. And here again, just like I said to Brian, it's not like we have a choice. If your furnace goes out in your house and it's the middle of the winter, you're going to repair your furnace whether you got the money to do it or not. I don't believe this is going to create a budget issue for us. We're not going to be in a deficit just because of doing this HVAC repair. But even still, it's necessary. And right now, it's band-aided together, and this repair will address the middle school system, which also then indirectly addresses the high school system because of how they've worked it around, and I'm not going to pretend to know what that means. I'm telling you what Brian's told me. Who knows what he's talking about? So.
Questions, concerns?
It seems like we redid the boiler system not that long ago.
Well, with the referendum,
Yeah. 5 years ago?
I don't know if that included these pumps, any idea?
No, I don't think, I think the answer to that's no, because I'm pretty sure Brian had told me that we're talking, these are like 25, 24, 25 years old. Yeah. Yep, they're not new and like covered under any warranty or anything like that. Nope.
Is there? Oh,
I
go
know what
ahead.
you're talking about though, because when I first joined the board, that was one of the like first items on a first agenda. I was a part of boilish system of some kind, but it's different.
Boiler that's in where the ice machine is, that was all replaced.
I can probably tell you. Let me take a look. See if I can pull this up without wasting too much time.
Okay.
Yeah, there used to be just a huge thing in there that's not there.
Yeah,
You got your money's worth out of that one.
so I think that's true. What I'm trying to do is we're working through developing, here we go. I don't know if this is gonna be the right one. The new 10-year facility plan, and like I said, you're gonna see that sometime this spring or this summer. And this is not the one that I'm looking for. Oh, maybe it is, hold up. Yeah, no, the one that I'm looking for has, and you'll see it when I get it, bring it forward to you, but has the dates of when these things were done. And I know for a fact, like Larray said, what Brian told me is that they're at least 24, 25 years old, the pumps. Now, what was done prior, I'm not sure.
Is there any concern, the Ahern's quote is it's pretty specific in all the stuff they're gonna do and exclude like the glycol and all that kind of stuff? Or Comfort System, just basically says, here you go. Is there any concern about that?
Not from Brian. Brian said this, his recommendation would be go with Comfort Systems as well. I think it's just a matter of how they bid it out, and I would be shocked if a local company was gonna just leave us in the lurch and be like, well, too bad, this is what this is what you paid for. But, yeah, Brian had no concerns, and he said that he would select Comfort Systems. And from what I understand, I'm pretty sure he took them both up there, through there, and identified what needed to be done, so nobody's fishing in the dark here.
Yeah, I think the Ahern's one is just more probably of a CYA, just in case something happens. They probably would come back and charge you for it, but the others fix it, unless it's something major. Any other questions? All right, we will move on to the board meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Here.
Here,
Here. All right, I will read the mission statement and the rules. The mission of the School District of St. Croix Falls is to provide a supportive, student-centered learning environment that cultivates character, fosters academic excellence, and embraces diversity. The board meeting rules are to focus on the mission, vision statements of the district, come prepared, be respectful of others, and opening and accepting of ideas. Actively participate, avoid side conversations, and remember that board meetings are an open forum. All right, we will go on. We don't have any public comments or presentations or awards. So we'll start with personnel and discuss and vote on the retirement of Tanya Milanowski, school psychologist.
That just is what it is. She's choosing to retire.
Any questions or comments on it?
We're going to post this position and look to fill it sooner than later. As you probably realize, school psychs, maybe you don't because we've had Tanya for quite some time, are super tough to find. But it sounds like we might be okay. And that's all I'm going to say about that because you never know with how life goes. But school psychs are super, super tough to find. So we're going to be pretty lucky if we can lock down what we think we might have going. But that's why once this is acted on, we'll likely get that posting out sooner than later and try to get it filled also sooner than later. I mean, not 2 weeks, but probably within a month or so.
All right. If not, no more questions, I'll take a motion to approve the retirement of Tanya Milanowski.
I'll go ahead and make that motion to approve the retirement of Tanya Milanowski, school psychologist, and thank you for your many years of service.
I have a motion by Tashina,
Second it.
second by Doc. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go on to review and vote on the cell phone tower lease and the eventual construction. This is what we talked about at the last board meeting.
Yep, and the lease was shared at the last board meeting, which is why it's not attached to this time around. And Hugh is here again on behalf of Terra Consulting if there is any questions. But again, to orient yourself, that would be the construction of a cell phone tower kind of just behind the bus garage on the west side of the service road that's back there, and it would take up about 50 to 75 square feet. I think we settled on even less than 75, right? 50 by 50, so.
All right. Did anybody get any feedback from anybody? Next three of us. So. Well, with that being said, I'll take a motion to vote on the cell phone tower lease and eventual construction.
I'll make a motion to approve the construction of the cell phone tower or the lease and eventual construction.
Have a motion by Steve,
I'll second it.
second by Tashina. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We'll vote on the replacement of the middle school HVAC pumps. Had the two proposals in the committee section.
Make a motion to accept the bid of $17,766, something like that, by Comfort Systems to replace the pumps in the middle school HVAC.
Got all that, Lorraine? All right, we have a motion by Steve,
I'll second.
second by Tashina. Do we roll call that one? Roll call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, do we have any announcements? No. Upcoming events, we've got our next scheduled board meeting at February 25th here at 5:15. March 11th and 15th, again, same structure. We do have the spring election on the 25th. Have we gotten any paperwork on that?
No, we have not.
Hearing there's going to be a write-in candidate, but I won't say any more about that yet.
There might be two, and from what we have reviewed, you can submit notification of running a write-in campaign like the day before the vote. The Friday before, that's what it is. So, yeah, that only gives you Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and part of Tuesday, I suppose, to do a write-in campaign, but, yeah. Right, yeah, you can say you're gonna do it in campaign, but you have to file the paperwork in order to be recognized as a write-in candidate. Yep.
All right.
I have a question. So when you have write-in candidates, can we still market that out so that people can prepare for their voting, or is that something that doesn't happen? It's all
No.
anonymous until you get to
The only way that we would communicate any of that would be if they properly file the paperwork and notify us that their name appears on the ballot. Because what we would put out is just that this is what your ballot's gonna look like. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
And for, what it'll be for us is it'll say, vote for no more than 2, because we have 2 vacant seats. And then you're gonna see Matt Bryce, who's running and declared a candidacy, and then you're gonna see a blank space.
Okay.
And so if, we can't really do that because you don't want to be perceived as like, you know, electioneering, like saying, here's a couple of write-in options for you to consider. We don't really, that's typically not going to come from the municipality or the entity.
I was just curious, because I know in years past, like, there's been articles in the newspaper of who was running, or, but that makes sense if they had turned in the paperwork, which all of them do.
Yeah, we call it scattering, yep. Yep.
A lot of times it's like Mickey Mouse and Superman. Yes.
So it'll kind of be up to them to do their campaigning.
Correct.
They fill out the paperwork, or
So-
they campaign now, but they have to get that done.
And what then they would do is if you're gonna do a write-in campaign, then it's gonna be very, very clear on their campaign materials, write-in, name. See what I'm saying? Yep. Yeah. And if someone asks, I mean, somebody's like, hey, who submitted paperwork to do a write-in? We can say that, but we can't really, publicize that for the reasons I mentioned.
And at this point, there's nobody. So,
Right now, no.
So then, April 8th will be a committee meeting, but then remember that Monday, April 21st, not Tuesday, is when we have that meeting to swear in the new board members, so. All right, well, that was quick. The rules of the meeting, I think we all came prepared. We focused on the mission and vision. We were respectful. We had participation. There was no sidebar conversations. And we remembered our board meetings are open forum. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by Tashina,
I'll second it.
by Steve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Those are not.